Can you believe that? There's gotta be like thousands of fruit on there. I can't even believe I caught a snook that big. That thing was probably like 3 feet long. I don't even believe, I can't even believe it. So I'm back in Florida for a little visit, and it's a great time of year to be here because there's so much fruit that's ripe, particularly the mangoes. And mangoes are one of my favorite fruits, so being able to come out and find mangoes falling off of these big trees in people's yards and them just like sitting on the ground not getting used, and you can just go around and collect as many mangoes as you want, and it's just incredible. They're so delicious, so fresh, so much better than anything you can get in a store. And so I'm gonna go around the neighborhood and sort of show you a little bit of the fruit potential of this part of the country. Also the flowers, there's so many flowers in bloom, tropical flowers, so I love that as well. Good smells, good flavors. These pigeon peas don't have any fruit on them or flowers, but they are just growing like weeds in this weather. So I assume they just get really big at this time of year and then flower and fruit later. This is a cranberry hibiscus, and these things just reseed themselves all over. Either that or they're growing from underground rhizomes. And one of the plants that's really in bloom and full lush growth is the frangipanis, and there's tons of those, different colors, different shapes. These papayas have gotten so much bigger in such a short time. And these bananas, they just planted these bananas in the spring when I was here, and they were probably 2 feet tall, and now you can see how much they've grown in such a short time. These pink flowered trees are everywhere, and there's different colors of them, and they're called Cape Myrtle, I think. They're really pretty. I don't think they have any fruit, but they flower and they smell really good. And this is a little planting at the International House of, this is yucca, which has a starchy root, and you can really easily propagate it by just cutting these sections and sticking them in the ground. This is a sugar cane over here. And then we have this mulberry was fruiting when I was here last. It's not doing much now, but growing like crazy. So it's getting a lot bigger. You got some sweet potato and basil. And I think this is a kind of a hibiscus here. These have edible leaves. The cranberry hibiscus as well has edible leaves. They're kind of like tangy flavored. This is another pigeon pea and a loquat that's growing like crazy now in the growing season. Here's a bigger example of the frangipani, which when I was here last, they just had the stems. They didn't have any of the leaf growth. And it's just amazing how these things can cast so much shade in the summertime, and then they just lose all their leaves in winter. And then they also flower. It's a little bit past the prime flowering season, but I'll show you some that are in full flower. And then these are, I don't know if they're agave or aloe, but they're in flower. Got these pretty flowers. There's a small version of a screw pine. It's not gotten big enough yet, but it's also got these huge fronds. Not all of them have that big frond. So I was blown away the other day when I came by here and I saw these mangoes. You can't necessarily tell it from here, but that mango is as big as my hand, and some of them are as big as my head. Whatever this variety is crazy. And this one has smaller mangoes on it. Still got a lot. He said they got a bunch from this one, but that one, they're all falling off before they're ripe because of some kind of bug or disease. There's just so many. There's a bunch in there. He said these are actually small for this year. Yeah, that guy said his son owns this house, and he planted all these like 7 years ago, and they started fruiting after like 3. So just imagine that. All that potential for fruiting, and he just gave me one mango to take with me. He said they don't even, they don't get red or yellow, they just get a little bit reddish, but mostly you harvest them when they're green like this. So it was really nice of him. I've never seen this lengua de vaca flowering before. It's this variegated leaf plant. I've seen it everywhere, but I've never actually seen it in bloom. Another great thing about being here at this time of year is there's so many plants in bloom that I never get to see in the wintertime because I've only been here in the winter. So this is the first date palm I think I've ever seen. You can see how this fruit forms, and then when it's ripe it kind of turns a brownish color and dries. You don't even have to dry these things, they just dry right on the plant, and they're just delicious and sweet. We tried some of these the other day, and they were not as sweet as some I've had, but they were definitely delicious. And it looks like all of these are date palms right here. And this is the frangipani. Flowers are just like so beautiful and smell so good. I don't know if you can see that very well, but up in those trees, I don't know if that's dragon fruit, but look at those flowers. They're just enormous. It's like a cactus, climbing cactus. This is the flower of that plant that I was seeing way up in the trees. Just amazing. It's like as big as my hand. Incredible flower. Okay, so you got to look at this mango. Can you believe that? There's gotta be like thousands of fruit on there. It's just an enormous tree, and look at all the fruit on the ground. It's just like, how could anybody handle all this fruit? Just enormous mangoes all over the ground. It's just hard to believe that a tree could produce this much fruit, even. And they're all just really nice. I mean, like, look at that. That's a perfect mango. It's perfect. Smell. It's just so incredible, tropical fruity. Some of the other yellow mangoes that we found that, I don't know, Erica was calling them pineapple mangoes. And they have a completely different smell and flavor, but just as delicious. Alright, so just got back from my little walk around the neighborhood and sorting out my mango haul. These are actually those ones that I called pineapple mangoes. Got from a tree over closer to downtown. I pretty much got all these from just ground underneath trees in people's yards. Some of these are probably overripe, like this one's really yellow. It doesn't feel super tender, so maybe not. Oh yeah, it's just perfect. Wow. Doesn't get any better than this. Let's try this one that I just picked off the ground. Ooh, this one feels more tender. This one tastes so much different. It's got like a zing.
It's a heaven of mangoes.
This one has kind of a zing to it compared with the all yellow one. Yeah. Such a delicious variety. This is that one that was the huge tree with all the fruit on it. Oh, it's just so good, and it's nothing like what you would get in a store. Okay, so I've been fishing over by Pointer Park, and I've not really caught anything there, but today I caught a jack crevalle, which is these fish, you know, travel around in schools and just like slam bait fish and eat them, and this one just caught my lure. And they're not supposed to be the best eating. A lot of people don't even keep them, but I'm gonna try. You can eat them, and some people make them up and they're good. But other people kind of complain that there's not enough food on them to eat. I'm gonna give it a try because I've never caught one before. This is the total amount of meat. You can see I've cut most of this bloody meat off, which I don't know, as I understand, that's not as good as the rest of the meat, so that's why I did that. So that is the snook that I just caught swimming away. I can't even believe I caught a snook that big. I basically just saw it swimming along, cast my lure, dragged it right in front of its face, and it just hit it immediately. That thing was probably like 3 feet long. I don't even believe, I can't even believe it. It's amazing. I didn't even know what to do. I mean, I caught this huge fish. I didn't want to keep it. I don't think you can keep them after there's like a slot, I think, for snook. So I let it go. But that was pretty amazing. I didn't think that I was going to be able to land that thing because it was just so enormous. I thought with my size of my rod and reel, I'm like shaking now. I didn't think there was any way I was going to be able to land that thing. I've only caught one snook ever before. And that was so easy because I just saw it and I was like, that's not a mullet, that's a huge snook. And I cast right in front of it and I caught it. Since I did this footage in Florida about fishing, a lot of fish in Florida have died because of red tide, which is an algae bloom, and the bloom is caused by excessive nutrients in the water. And although the organism itself is a naturally occurring organism, this phenomenon has not been caused by anything natural. It's basically entirely caused by humans flushing nutrients from agriculture and other sources like raw sewage out into the waters, and then that has led to massive sea life die-off. And so the beaches in Florida for a long time have been covered with dead fish. You can imagine what this is doing for the Florida tourism industry and also the fishing industry. Not to mention that this is like sea life dying in the billions, like manatees dying, dolphins dying, sea turtles dying. Everything is dying because of this red tide, and it's just stretching around all the beaches around Florida. And it actually made it close to St. Pete. It hasn't been quite as bad in that area, but still there has been some die-off in that area. And I'm concerned about like what's going to happen when I want to go back to Florida and fish, because fishing is one of the things that I do for enjoyment. One of the reasons why I go to Florida. It's so fun, and I love eating fresh fish. And obviously these fish that are washing up dead on the shore, you can't even do anything with them because they have the toxins in their flesh, and so you can't even eat them. So I just wanted to take a minute to talk about how this happened, and it has a lot to do with deregulation. And people on the right wing want to make us think that deregulation is a good thing, but regulations were put in place often in the interest of protecting the public and in the interest of protecting natural systems. And specifically, we don't want agriculture to be flushing chemicals and fertilizers out into the oceans because it causes this kind of red tide. So regulations would have prevented this situation, but the governor of Florida, Rick Scott, has been made it his mission to deregulate as much as he can to free up things for his corporate cronies in Florida to help them make even more money than they already are making. And we see how this helps the economy. It doesn't help the economy, it destroys the economy. So this has led to like people canceling their trips to Florida because they don't want to sit out on a beach that's covered in dead fish. And this is the way it's been. I talked to people from Florida and they're like, no, I haven't been to the beach in months because it's just not a pleasant experience. So this is one of the effects of deregulation, if you ever wondered. Well, thanks for watching Hardcore Sustainable, and keep those comments coming. I love hearing your comments and answering your questions. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, share, and give a thumbs up to the video, and I'll see you next time.